Hello, and welcome to episode 56 of Gondor Calls for Ale, a Middle-earth strategy battle games podcast. I am, of course, your host, Sam Gallagher, and with me, as always, is my brother, Ben.
Hello, welcome to the show.
Welcome back. 56, well over the halfway of 100, which is what I was going to say, but, halfway through the 50s, so... that's how numbers work, and now you've been informed.
It's going to be getting close to our 2-year anniversary, doesn't it, Sam? Or 3-year or whatever.
This comes out, probably, maybe even past, because it's sometime in July. I have it written down, and this will come out sometime in the middle of July. Yeah, so it may be, well... Who knows? We'll either tell you next episode if you've missed it, or you'll be right on it. Or maybe I'll look it up when Ben's talking and I don't need to pay attention, and we can talk about that. But speaking of paying attention, Ben, to the most important section of any Gondor Calls for Ale episode, and that is, of course, the ale. So tell us what you're drinking this fine evening.
Well, Sam, in honor of our host, I have myself a Baggins Pale Ale. It came from the end of a bag, but no bag came over it. I don't know what that means, but that's what I'm going with.
Hey, I was like, is this a subtle reference? Maybe a bag end pale ale? This isn't a sandy ale or something?
No. I was, thinking it's the perfect drink for you have to drink outside, but there's no open container on it. You brown bagging it.
I see. Okay.
The deep stretch that I was going for. Hopefully, you have a more inventive beer to share with us for this episode, Sam. So, what are you drinking?
Well, Ben, I'm having a Mithrandia mead. And once you start this drink, you must finish it, for you cannot pass, or shall not pass it.
Nice. Much better than mine. Cheers. Well done.
Well, maybe not the execution, but, we do what we can.
Yeah. We'll drink a couple of these beers here, and then maybe we won't be quite so bumbly, or maybe we'll be more bumbly and more entertaining.
Who's to say?
Speaking of entertaining, Sam, do you want to tell us and our dear listener and viewers what we're talking about this episode?
Oh, absolutely. Of course I do, Ben. We are covering... something tragic over there. No, we are covering day 2 of Bilbo's Birthday Bash, which I believe, if memory serves me, it was a 700-point event with 5 games played over 2 days. So we'll actually sort of be covering the end of day 1, I suppose, and all of day 2. So we'll be covering our final 3 games. This was kind of if you haven't listened to part 1, it will already be up on wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Or if you wish to view our smiling, slightly confused looking faces, you can, of course, check it out on YouTube. But this tournament was pretty cool. There was like bingo to do during the games. There were door prizes and a bunch of sort of birthday-related celebration-y things. On day 2, there was cake, as every good birthday party should have.
Nice. It was good stuff.
Well, Ben, I think we're getting ready to move into your game 3. But before we roll into that, we're going to roll into something else, and that is, of course, our sponsorship. That's right, Gondor Calls for Ale still is sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice, Ben. That's right, they've got all shapes and sizes. They've got those beautifully square corners that we absolutely love, and they are perfectly balanced, made from hand-swirled resin. There are no micro bubbles, unlike some other dice producers, so therefore we can safely guarantee here at Gondor Calls for Ale that they will roll 6s, at least some of the time. But if you wish to get yourself a set of these awesome Baron of Dice who produces dice specifically for Lord of the Rings, you can go to the link in the description of this episode, wherever you're listening or watching. It'll be in the link. And if you want a nice discount, you can use our promo code to get you some money off your dice order. And that promo code is, of course, capital G, capital C, capital A. Definitely check that out if you're considering buying dice. It helps us out, it helps him out, and just generally shows off how amazing our viewers and or listeners are, and how dedicated they are to rolling 6s some of the time.
Sam, the Baron certainly gets his money out of you. I think we agreed to 15 seconds per episode or something, and you just go on and on and
It
on.
just
I mean,
goes.
it's a fantastic dice. Don't get me wrong. I just it
The
cracks me
the
up
more
every time a little bit.
the more comfortable I get, the more ad-libbing and ridiculous statements I tend to make. Soon I'll be telling him or telling everyone that he makes solid gold dice, and then he would be committed to it. So that's how it works. But yes, that's it. That's our word from our sponsors. Our other sponsor, of course, is our dear Patreons. If you want to become one of those Patreons and listen to more of Ben and myself rambling, let's be real, it's probably the majority of it is probably me. You can hear, I think we should be up to 12 at the very least, if not 13 half pints at this point, which are episodes about many different subjects, ranging from how we go about creating an army to our thoughts and feelings on all the different scenarios to some faction reviews. So if you're interested in that, please consider checking out our Patreon. We really do appreciate that, and that is really what helps us continue to be able to produce these episodes. Huh, boy, there we go. It's like a commercial, all done. We need some sound effects and stuff in there, which I won't bother doing. So. Well, there we go. Ben gave us a sound effect. I'm not sure what that was, but it was something.
The grunt of agreement. All right, Sam. Onwards into some games, into some battle reports. On into my game one, and this was not a veto tournament. There was no vetoing allowed, and we were playing to the death. In fact, each round, the scenario was chosen by a player who had won some sort of tournament bingo or trivia award, and they got to pick the next scenario out of one of the pools. So we were playing to the death. Do you want to give us a rundown of that one, Sam?
I happily will, but I think you'll find that is not actually the scenario.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong score sheet. We're playing Fog of War.
We sure are, Ben. That sounds more like it. And once I find my book and my scenario, I will tell you all about Fog of War. But for now, I will tell you that Fog of War is a favorite here at Gondor Calls for Ale. Some people weirdly don't like it, but it's pretty great. It's also scenario 11. It is also, luckily, Ben did get the deployment map. Pardon?
I was going to guess 12.
Well, it's 11, so, on a scale from 1 to 10, Fog of War, you are an 11.
What about on a scale of 1 to 13?
Well, then it's still an 11. All right, so Ben did get the deployment map correct if you're viewing on YouTube. If you're not, it's pretty straightforward, 12-inch up deployment zones. This is a game that lasts until a turn in which one force has been broken, and then after that, on a 1 or a 2, the game may end. Well, will end if you roll a 1 or a 2. We've got some scoring, Ben. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your own hero models. This may not be your leader unless you only have one hero. You score 1 victory point if the nominated hero is still alive at the end of the game. If the nominated hero is still alive and has suffered no wounds, instead you score 3. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your opponent's heroes. This may not be your opponent's leader unless they only have one. You score 1 victory point for causing 1 or more wounds to the nominated hero. If you kill them instead, you score 3. And then at the start of the game, secretly note down a single piece of terrain in your opponent's half of the board. You score 1 victory point at the end of the game if you have more models than your opponent completely within your selected terrain piece. If your opponent has no models completely within and you have at least 1, instead you score 3. And then you score 1 victory point if the enemy force is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy force is broken and you are unbroken, instead you score 3. There we go. Fog of War. So, Ben, remind us, you're playing Pits of Dol Guldur?
That's correct. The Pits of Dol Guldur, I've got Azog on the White Warg and 2 Hunter Orc captains. And for some foolish reason, I decided that the hero I was going to protect would be the White Warg. This was not a good choice. I should have chosen one of my Hunter Orc captains. I really don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking all my eggs in one Azog-shaped basket, I suppose. And I was playing against Austin, and he had a last alliance, Sam, of elves and men, led by none other than the High King Gil-galad himself.
Okay.
Then we have Círdan, the shipwright, and a Numenor captain. So I decided that I was going to try and kill the Numenor captain because it seemed easier to get to than Círdan, and obviously I can't choose Gil-galad because he is the army leader. And there were 3 forests in my opponent's deployment zone for me to choose from, and I chose the forest to my rightmost flank. And I didn't take very many pictures of this game, Sam, largely because my opponent's army was unpainted. And in fact, I knew that I was going to kill the Numenor captain because he was blue tacked to his base, and he kept leaning throughout the game. So I was like, he must die. He will die because he can't stay on his base. So he's going to die. So we're just going to get right into it. I think the big thing about this game is that there's this pretty steep hill formation in the center of the board. So we've got two distinct flanks, which is something that I enjoy. I like the second guessing you can get, and Azog's got some fell site options with that hill. You can see it right in this picture here. It's this hill in the center of the board. So I take turn 1 priority. One of my captains calls a march. I deployed in such a way that, he can get and march off effectively. And basically we rush my whole army forwards, except I left 3 of my hunter orcs off to one side to guard a building in my deployment zone, because the way that Austin had deployed, his whole army was pretty much to my left-hand flank. He's got a handful of Rivendell Knights. I think he had 2 Rivendell Knights in the army, as well as mounted Gil-galad and the Numenor captain, but so not a lot of cavalry. So it was pretty clear that he was going for one of the 3 terrain features to my left, either the one in my center or the one to my left-hand flank. So I left 3 hunter orcs, and that terrain feature was a building with some walls in front of it. So I left 3 hunter orcs behind the wall with their bows to take some shots and basically just guard the terrain feature. And they take some shots, don't get anything accomplished this turn. And we get into turn 2, where Austin takes priority and decides to charge Gil-galad right into Azog. He's, I had left Azog within Gil-galad's threat range. I didn't think that he would just come charging straight forwards outside of his line of support, but that's exactly what he does. Gil-galad comes charging in. So I threw I threw my battle line forwards past Gil-galad. We've got some orcs behind him, so he's trapped. I think I got one of my hunter orc captains. In fact, if you look, I got both of my hunter orc captains into combat with him. And in the combat phase, we get the strike off. We get a couple other fights on the flank. I honestly shouldn't have engaged on this flank. This is the flank with Círdan on it, to my left-hand flank, and I should have stayed away. I decided, screw it, we're so close, I might as well engage. Shouldn't have done it, because I ended up losing the fights and losing 3 hunter orcs on that flank. But the big strike-off between Gil-galad, who you may have noticed, Sam, I saw you leaning in to check out the picture there, is actually an Elrond model. So not only was he not painted Gil-galad, he's an Elrond, old Elrond model. Because I guess there's no mounted Gil-galad model, so fair enough. Anyway, so we get the strike-off, and we both get to 10. But the tide fight goes till Gil-galad on his Elven Blade, and he puts all his attacks into the White Warg, obviously the hero that he's trying to kill, and manages to put 1 wound on the Warg. I decide not to spend the fate. No, I'm sorry. Tell a lie. Got it marked down. I do spend the fate, but still take a wound, and I saved Azog's fate for keeping Azog around. So we get into turn 3, where I take priority, and the Numenor captain, who has moved up behind Gil-galad, calls a move, but he was not actually within range of Gil-galad, so I just let the move go off, and basically the battle line on my right-hand flank is trying to move up to sort of support Gil-galad. Círdan throws an Enchanted Blades onto Gil-galad, and once again in the combat phase, now the battle lines are fully locked. We're fighting across the whole map, and once again in the combat phase, the only thing that really matters is, of course, the strike-off between Gil-galad and Azog. I should say, the other reason I'm fairly sure that Gil-galad was trying to kill the White Warg is because if he kills the White Warg, he's getting his might back from Blood and Glory. The Warg is, of course, a hero. So we once again get the strike-off between Gil-galad and Azog, and once again I lose the strike-off. I'm not sure whether I didn't get to 10 or didn't roll a 6 or just went to Gil-galad on the roll-off, but either way, once again goes to Gil-galad, and this time he does manage to kill the White Warg, despite me spending the 2nd point of fate. So, his plan. At first, I was feeling pretty confident, right? I was like, "This elf lord's come charging in. I'm going to get him surrounded, and I'm just going to beat him to death with Azog and a bunch of orcs." But he's won 2 fights. I've lost the White Warg. Azog's out of fate. Things are not quite going the way that I wanted to. My battle line is still holding him off. I managed to kill 3 elves this turn, but lose another 5 orcs. So he's beginning to close that numbers gap that he's got. So I decided that this was the turn, Sam. Turn 4, I was going to call my surprise. And I took a couple of courage tests with some orcs, and I charged a hunter orc into Gil-galad, got him tied up, got him surrounded, re-engaged the elf battle line, and charged Azog and both of my hunter orc captains into the Numenor, captain of Numenor. And in the combat phase, and I left. I set up a trap for Gil-galad. I left Azog's on foot, and I left a Gil-galad-sized hole behind Azog, and then was like, oh no, I left a hole. Shoot, I should have moved someone there to put so that Gil-galad couldn't charge into him. And Austin decides to call a heroic combat with Gil-galad, so that's his last point of might. And I call a heroic strike with Azog, and then also call a heroic combat with my captains. So even if Gil-galad's combat goes first, because he was thinking, I'm going to call a combat, and then Azog will have to strike, and then I won't charge into Azog. I'll go somewhere else. I also have now called a combat, so if Gil-galad goes first and moves somewhere else, Azog's going to come hunt him down. If Gil-galad goes second, Azog's going to come hunt him down, and either way, I'm striking and he's not. So I'm pretty pleased with that trap. I managed to pull it off. Azog's combat goes first, not that it would have mattered, and we charge Azog, both Hunter Orc captains, into Gil-galad this turn. We've gotten to fight 10 with Azog's strike, and Azog manages to kill Gil-galad this turn.
Nice.
Which was pretty great. I really needed that. I've been pushing my Felwargs off towards my terrain feature. Austin's been running a couple of elves over the course of the game through the woods to go contest my terrain feature. And the clock is unfortunately running out. We get into turn 5 where Austin takes priority and one of my captains calls a move and Círdan counter moves. I get the move first, but it's the last turn of the game. I'm not going to get to charge into Círdan. He's got 2 elves in his terrain feature and I've got 3 Felwargs. So right now I could score the terrain feature for 1 victory point, or if I can kill one of those elves with my Felwargs, then I will instead get the 3 victory points for having twice as many models in the terrain feature. So I decided to charge my Felwargs into the elves just to see, because at this point I'm losing the game. He's killed his target. I've failed to protect my target. He's definitely protected his target. I've not killed mine. So I'm down on victory points. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to kill the elf. So I've just got two Felwargs over there. So I don't score the terrain feature, and I lost this one 5-3. I do think 3-6. Lost this one. I got 3 victory points. He got 6. I do think if it had kept going, it would have been my game because he had just had Círdan on the board, right. And I've got Azog with 3 heroic combats and 2 might. But unfortunately, tournament game, part of them is playing to the time, and it is what it is. It was a great game by Austin. Gil-galad's ability just to charge in and be unsupported and just hammer on Azog totally caught me off guard. And I'm pleased with the way that I set up that trap. That was a move that I'm quite pleased with how it came off.
Nice. Well, shame to have lost, but still impressive to kill the High King of the Elves.
Yeah. Although if anyone's going to do it, Azog wounding on 3s is he's a guy.
It's more about winning the fight, I think, against him than actually being able to wound him. Like he's defense 7 or 8. It's not like an impossible. You're not like fighting Sauron with defense 10. Where you're still looking for like 6s by some things. It's just like if he's striking, he's always 10, he's always a 9, and he's got
you're absolutely right. I just didn't, and then the Elven Blade on top of that. I just didn't really realize how resilient he could be. Yeah.
All right. Well, not bad.
I guess there's the last state of the game board. So you can see that there's not that many elves and Numenorians left.
Just so you know, I don't know if you are aware of this, but to score 3 victory points from your terrain feature, it's not double or more than. It's no enemy models and at least 1 friendly model.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I missed. Maybe I charged. So I charged 2 Felwargs into both elves.
Right.
So I got to kill. I had to kill both the elves. Either way, it was like a long shot. It wasn't coming off.
No, I mean it sounds like it made sense, but it also sounds like it wouldn't have changed the outcome. I guess it would have.
No, I still would have lost. I still would have lost it. I think, honestly, I lost this game by choosing the White Warg as my defending target. Yeah. It was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, so that was my game 3. Tell me all about yours.
All right, Ben. Well, we were also playing Fog of War. All right. So into my game 3, we were, of course, playing Fog of War, as you can take a guess at by looking at this deployment map. I was playing James, who you may remember I played at the Richmond Open at the second breakfast tournament. he was playing Mordor. He tried that. He was using the Blackgate Opens at the Richmond Open, and this time he was just playing a more generic Mordor army. So his army was led by the Witch King. He had 3 Might, 15 Will, and 3 Fate. The crown, and was on a horse. I don't remember if he had the blade or not. He had Shagrat, a bold choice, and
On paper, so
right,
tasty.
and he had Kardush. To remind you what I was playing, dear listener, viewer, whoever you may be, that would of course be the army of Gothmog, led by Gothmog. I had Guroth, I have Guritz, I had a shaman. The shaman in this picture, in this army, you can see him there in the bottom left of your screen if you're viewing. I was using the Kardush model, so of course in this game he was Kardush's evil twin brother, Truckdouche. And yeah, so I was probably, I don't quite remember and didn't write it down. I took a note on my phone, which is what I usually do. I think I was protecting Guroth because he can just chuck orcs in the way. He's very hard to kill. I was trying to kill Shagrat because Shagrat's going to be in the front and in combat, and he's honestly not that hard to kill. And I was trying to take this fallen column. We were playing on sort of a Khazad-dûmi board, and there was a column that was quite close to my side. And yeah, so basically standard sort of for me deployment. Most of the army goes in the center, as Gothmog kind of in the middle, with the drum within 12-inch range of everyone. In this board, there were enough columns, and we weren't going to have a full battle line that I had Guroth and his full warband off on a flanking maneuver on my left. Turn 1 goes to James. He basically moves forwards. As I said, I move forwards. Turn 2, I believe, went to me as well. I have it very unclearly written, so we're not 100% sure, but doesn't matter. Nothing really happens. So I move within. If it goes to me, I move so I'm not getting charged. If it goes to him, I just drum up to be. It probably went to him, and I just drummed up and was like sitting right in his face, and we were going to see some combat next turn. Mm-hmm. He did attempt to black dart Guritz and got the spell off, but classically rolled a 1 to wound and didn't feel like committing 2 might to get the wound, which makes sense. And then he flame burst somebody on the other flank. Turn 3 goes to me. And our lines lock. I get Gothmog into combat. I get Guritz into combat. The Shaman obviously not in combat. I believe the Shaman used a Fury this turn because he had a decent number of Black Numenorians in the front. So I was like, I'm going to get, I think I 1 diced it, or maybe I probably 2 diced it just to basically guarantee I was going to get it this turn. And then charge in. Guroth still on his flanking mission and is closing in. The Witch King attempts to black dart somebody else. I'm not sure if that went. I think he maybe failed to get the spell off, and then Kardush successfully tried to flame burst somebody, and I think again failed to kill anyone. We get to combat. I of course called Time of the Orc here because most of my army is in combat, as you can see from this picture, and it's definitely the kind of ability that I think use it when you got it. Better to use it than lose it. And so Gothmog called a combat, and so did Guritz, because again, I'm re-rolling everything. Might as well get some combat.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of these Black Numenorians. And this was, in fact, the Time of the Orc, Ben. I lost 4 models this turn and managed to kill 9 of his, which was, I think I was pretty much only fighting Black Numenorians. I think there were a few orcs I was in combat with. But
oh, shoot, you wounded.
Yeah, so
What, 4s or to kill a Black Numenorian?
Defense 6, so 5s, 4s. Yeah, 4s with rerolls. Pretty all right. And I think he had like 12 in his army, and after that turn, he only had like 3 left. So that was a great success. Turn 4 went to James. I called a move with the Shaman. He called a move with the Witch King. The move went to James, and he attempted to compel the Shaman away. And I said, sure. And it went off. I let him compel. He pushed him back. But I was still able to get enough of the models in the 6-inch Fury that I was able to charge like the 3 Black Numenorians like without a problem, really.
Okay.
I think we talked about it afterwards and said he should have probably just sapped Will. Kardish failed his flame burst again. Now Guroth.
Man, Kardu's having a not good
Yeah,
day.
yeah, it's not going great for him. Now Guroth is in combat. I think if you're looking at this picture, you might just be able to see him. He's close-ish to Shagrat. Oh, he's not in combat in this picture, but he's right there by the fallen column on the left of the screen with there's a black model up on the column. I think he charges into that black Numenorian, and the plan is to call a combat and go into the Witch King, I think was my plan. Or just into Shagrat. I don't remember. So he calls a combat. We get into the combat phase. Not all that much happens. I kill 4 more models and only lose 2. Turn 5.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you real quick, Sam? I just want to from this last picture, look at all those guys, and then
yeah,
it's just kind of crazy. It's just crazy.
It is a fair. He took a fair hurting. That the time of the orc is real good. Even if you're not fighting men, like re-rolling everything, pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
So turn 5 goes to me. The Ring Wraith or the Witch King calls a move. Gothmog is in range and Masters of Battle it. The move goes to him, and he transfixes Gothmog, and I just let it go. I think Gothmog ends up, maybe I don't let it go. He gets transfixed, doesn't matter.
Did Goroth end up calling a combat last
He
turn?
did, but I think he either failed to get it off or he couldn't go anywhere particularly useful.
Gotcha, okay.
So Gothmog's transfixed, and I think he put Shagrat into Gothmog. And I was like, ooh, that's not great. But maybe I peel. Anyway, not a huge amount happens. We get some combats. I kill another 4 models. Only lose 1. Gothmog doesn't take any wounds. I think he just wins the fight. Guroth does get into combat with the Witch King this turn and spends his last point of might to wound the Witch King. Not his last point of might. Spends a point of might to wound the Witch King. And the Witch King, I think, passes. Spends a point of fate and passes. Turn 6 goes to me, and the Witch King has to call another move, which Gothmog is in range of to Master of Battle, and this move goes to me. I think Gothmog and Guritz go into Shagrat. Guroth goes back into the Witch King. I start trying to trap and surround him. We fight Shagrat. Oh, I should say last turn. No, that's right. So whoever Shagrat must have been fighting Gothmog, and he spent 3 might to win the fight, and then didn't kill Gothmog. So Shagrat is out Shagrat's out of might, and so Gothmog calls a strike. Guritz spends one of his might. He must have rolled the 5, so I spent it to get the 6 and to win the fight, and we kill Shagrat. Again, it was mostly Gothmog, it looks like, because I have that he rolled 3 6s to wound Shagrat. So, like he likes to do. So we kill 5 models, only lose 4, and I've killed Shagrat, who is my target. And I think I don't know if I do anything to the Witch King or not. Turn 7 goes to me. Basically, we pile in on the Witch King, and I managed to kill the Witch King this turn. And this ends as a major victory to me, 12-1. So I protected my target without taking any wounds. I killed, I protected my hero, killed my target, took my terrain piece, and broke him without being broken. And I think the one he got was...
Defending, having a model in his terrain feature, but you contested it?
Maybe?
Or his defending target was alive but wounded?
Yeah. Maybe his... Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or were you broken?
No, I wasn't
you weren't
broken.
You didn't take
was
any,
there...
didn't take any casualties.
Yeah, I don't remember what his one was from. But yeah, 12-1. So that was my game 3.
Nice. Oh, well... Good old time of the orc, Sam. Good old time of the orc. Sounds like a fantastic rule when it goes off.
All right, Ben, into your game.
Onwards
4.
into my game
so
4.
Day 2 we're at
and
now.
Yes, and this time I was correct. We were playing to the death. This is the score sheet that I was looking at when I said to the death
We
last time. So
surely are.
it's because I have game 3 written on both score
Nice,
sheets.
nice. All right, Ben. Well, I will give us a rundown of To the Death. Scenario 2, we've got some 12-inch deployment zones. We've got a game that lasts until the end of a turn in which one force is being reduced to 25% of its starting number. We've got 1 victory points for causing 1 or more wounds to the enemy leader, 3 if you kill them, 3 if the enemy force is broken at the end of the game, 5 if you are unbroken, 1 victory point if you have at least 1 banner, 2 if you have a banner and your opponent has none, and 2 victory points if the enemy force is reduced to 25% of its starting number. So there we have it.
Nice. And I was playing against Matt, who is a Patreon of the show. And he brought out his special Gondor calls for Eldice to see how they fared against me. And spoiler alert, Sam, we saw that sweet Gondor calls for Ale 6 quite a few times. And Matt had a really awesome army. Actually, it was beautifully painted. We were playing on my favorite board at this event. I mean, it was fantastic. And I think this was also the most fun game I had at the event. It was super enjoyable to play against. He had the Defenders of Erebor and Army of Dale Legendary Legion. I actually don't know what the Legendary Legion is called.
I think it's called the Defense of Erebor.
The Defense of Erebor? Okay.
Right.
So he's got Thorin III as his leader. Then he's got King Brand, Glowin, and a Captain of Dale with a total of, I want to say, 36 or so models.
Okay.
Only 6 bows, though. So, interestingly enough, I wasn't having to be too worried about a lot of shooting. Maybe there were more than that. Anyway, I wasn't too worried about the shooting. There was some shooting going on because on turn 1, which Matt takes priority, we both move forwards, and I take a shooting casualty. One of my Hunter Orcs dies. I take turn 2 priority, keep rushing forwards. Nothing much to report at this point. We're both moving forwards. Matt takes turn 3 priority, and he's just staying where he is. He's not moving at all. So I rush up, and the battle lines are now. We're neck and neck. I've been charging up this hill. He's sort of anchored his battle line between some like this. So this is sort of one tree on one flank and this big rocky formation on the other flank. And then up on the other side of that rocky formation, if you're looking at this picture, you can just see there's a goat rider up there on the top right, and 3 archers of Dale. So my plan here was, I've left myself some spaces for Azog to go. Azog can go left into the battle line, or he can go right around that rock and hopefully get behind Matt's battle line and really do some damage. So that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to send Azog into that goat rider, run over the goat rider, maybe kill the archers, and then just be wreaking havoc behind his battle lines. So we get into turn 4, where I take priority, which is exactly what I want at this point. We're within charge range. We're all set to go. We charge in. Azog gets his charge off into that goat rider, and we get into the combat phase. And, I've got 3 attacks and a banner roll in just about all of the fights. He's got his 2 attacks and a banner roll in all of the dice, but the high fight in all of the fights, but the high fight. So statistically, we're looking at pretty even fights at this point. Azog's off on his flank, ready to cause havoc. Azog calls a free heroic combat and fails to kill the goat rider. Just ricochets right off the goat rider, which was disappointing. Disappointing to have been bogged down. I tied up the archers with my 3 felwogs, and in the combat phase, Matt wins most of the fights. And those Strength 4 Iron Hills Dwarves just obliterated my Hunter Orc. Sam, I took 7 casualties this turn, and only managed to kill 3 in return. So, not a good turn for me. And Matt takes turn 5 priority. So, one of my captains calls a move, and Matt does not counter move. I think he was saving his might for dealing with Azog, which is fair, but I think he got a little bit too and is like, I've got to save my might to deal with Azog. I got to save my might to deal with Azog. Last turn, I'd managed to basically sort of block his heroes in so that they were fighting 1 orc and could get into only 1 other orc if they called a heroic combat. So he didn't call heroic combats on that turn. And I did a reasonably good job over this game of basically trying to do that whenever possible so that his heroes couldn't just go into 2 guys combat and go into another 2, because that would have really, especially with Azog getting blocked by that goat, it could have been really bad. Anyway, so I get the move, and we re-engage the battle lines. Azog goes back into that goat rider, and calls another free heroic combat. Of course, Azog is. I don't think he was in range of the heroic move, so he got charged this turn, but he's still calling his heroic combat. And Matt has basically moved a couple of guys to just to slow Azog down. But if you look in this picture, King Brand is just to the right of that rock. He's the rightmost warrior. And Azog manages to call his heroic combat this turn, kills the Goat Rider he's fighting, and goes into another guy and kills him too. So now Azog has done what I wanted him to do last turn, which is make his way around this rock formation and be in a really threatening position. Elsewhere in the combat phase, it's a little bit more even this turn. I kill 5 guys, but lose only 4. And I should note too that Brand is he's come around the rock, I think. He calls a heroic combat, fails the combat, and is trapped by the rock. I think he's fighting a Felwag and a Hunter Orc or something, and has to spend 2 points of fate to not die. So he doesn't take any wounds, but he's now completely out of fate. So it's time, Sam. I decide to call surprise this turn, and we re-engage down the whole battle line. On my left-hand flank, I need Azog to do work over on the right because my left-hand flank is falling apart. The other Goat Riders come around the flank, and I've taken a lot of casualties. Both of us are anchored by that rock on the one flank, but it's anyone's flank on the other side. So calling the move, trying to pin up as many dwarves on that side as possible, and then get as dwarves and Men of Dale, and then get as many traps and good engagement for myself elsewhere. Azog, of course, calls his free heroic combat, kills. He killed 2 guys last turn. He kills 2 guys this turn, and then moves on into another 2. One of whom is King Brand, and he kills Brand this turn as well. I take another 4 casualties and inflict a total of 6 casualties this turn. So things are starting to go my way. Unfortunately, too, for Matt, his Captain of Dale he was either killed by Azog or was just got a bad turn and was trapped and killed by Hunter Orcs. I don't remember, but his Captain of Dale is killed with full stats this turn, which is pretty rough for him. It would have been nice to maybe have seen him call some moves or something. So we get into turn 7 where I take priority and Matt calls his first move with Glowin, and I counter move with my other captain. So both my captains are down to 1 point of might, and unfortunately for Matt, I win the move off. And we go back in, and at this point, that was the move off. The game has turned at this point. It's now Azog flubbed his combat, and Matt had a chance to sort of have control of the game. And at this point, Azog's come around the flank. I get the move off, and his battle line is starting to fall apart. He calls a couple of heroic combats over the next couple of turns with Thorin. Thorin's chopping through guys. But at this point, my numbers are starting to take their toll. He's taken enough casualties where I'm basically trapping him in every single fight, and he's now not rolling the 6s to win the fights, and I'm winning the fights, and he's just starting to drop. And it's just to the death. We just grind it out until time, and we get to turn 8, and it is a 5-3 victory to me. Azog did not manage to hunt down Thorin III. That was his goal. Thorin was all the way on the left. Azog was all the way on the right. Just didn't manage to make it happen. But the 2 dwarf heroes did some work. Glowin didn't have a great game. I think he called 1 combat, had to spend a point of might to win it, and only killed a couple of the guys. I think I did a really good job of managing to sort of mitigate where his heroes could go, basically. And yeah, winning that key move off was really big.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, but like I said, a fantastic game. Really enjoyed playing against Matt, and he had a beautifully painted army, and I should say too, won best painted good model with his glowing miniature. So encouraged me to take a lot more pictures. I took so many more pictures of this game because it was a cool board with a cool painted army.
It does make a difference. Awesome, excellent. Well, should we move onwards and upwards into my game 4?
Yeah, Sam, tell me all about it. Who were you playing?
All right, Ben. Well, in game 4, I was playing Caleb, who was bringing the Witch King, Suladan, and the Shadow Lord, and we were playing.
Witch King, Suladan, boo. Shadow Lord's at least sort of interesting. I guess he mitigates the shooting. So,
so which my Hunter Orc, my Orc bowmen, not even Orc trackers, are deadly shots. Hilariously, he has some Orc trackers, and I think I end up winning the shooting war in this game, but it doesn't really matter, as we will get into it. So we were playing on this sort of Osgiliath board. essentially I was just going to be running at him, and he was going to be magicking me on the way in, and we were going to see how it goes. So turn 1 went to me, and I drummed up and moved everyone forwards, and the Witch King used some number of will to attempt to sap will Gothmog. I think he got the 6. So I was like, whatever, I'll throw a will at it, and rolled poorly, and then he sapped the rest of Gothmog's will. So turn 1, Gothmog's out of will, and the Shadow Lord black darted Guroth, who failed his resist as well and failed his fate, so he takes a wound. Turn 2 goes to me, and the Witch King calls a channel, and I moved forwards again. I don't think we were really in range of combat, and the Witch King took a channel black dart at Gothmog, who couldn't resist it, obviously. I believe he failed to get the spell off. No, he got it off. He got it off, but then rolled a 1 to wound Gothmog and spent his last 2 might to do the D3 wounds, which he then rolled a 1, so Gothmog takes a wound.
Black Dart is so routinely a disappointing
spell. And
spell.
then the Shadow Lord black darted Gothmog as well. And I think the spell failed to go off. He ended up spending, I think maybe he rolled another 1 to wound, who knows. He ended up spending his 2 might to do another wound to Gothmog. And so Gothmog's down to 1 wound, but is not dead. So that was success. Turn 3 goes to me. This is the turn we get lines locked. I think he tried to black dart. My shaman called cast a fury this turn because he had a bunch of black Numenorians. He failed 2 black darts, I think, trying to kill Gothmog. Didn't get them, which was kind of nice because I was like, well, I'm calling Time of the Orc now. It's not a great time, but he's now's better than never. However, Caleb rolled literally nothing but 6s. That's not entirely true. I did kill 3 models, but some of that might have been from shooting. And he killed 8 of mine. So that's not great. Turn 4, Gothmog was... Turn 4 goes to me. I foolishly charged Gothmog into Suladan, forgetting that he was at 1 wound and out of... what's the word I'm looking for? Will. So the Shadow Lord transfixes Gothmog. I also very foolishly put Guroth in a position where he is not within an inch of another orc, and he gets black darted to death. And then we get into combat, and Suladan strikes. So Gothmog's transfixed, Suladan strikes, outstrikes Gothmog, kills him. I kill 5 models but lose 4. Turn 5 goes to Caleb. I think the shaman calls a move, and Suladan calls a move. The move goes to Caleb. Whatever, our lines relock. He transfixes the shaman, so the shaman's not doing anything. Turn 6 goes to me. I guess Guroth must have called a combat for some reason and failed to get his combat off. Caleb failed to transfix my banner, and I was broken this turn, I should say. At the beginning of this turn, and 11 of my remaining orcs ran away, because taking courage tests needing 9s is bad. And then turn 7, after that, it didn't matter, and it was a 12-0. So there we go. That was my game 4. It was terrible. No, I mean, the game was fine. Caleb was fun. I like Caleb. He was a good opponent. It's not like he had 1 turn of his magic being really bad, which is he then spent all of his might to successfully to sort of counter it being bad. It obviously would have been much worse if he'd just got the spells off and not needed to use the might, or if he'd rolled the 5 or 6 or even a 4, basically 4+, or 3+, he would have killed Gothmog. So, but then the rest of the game, his magic was gross, and I just don't really stand a chance. Certainly once my
Yeah, I remember at the end of this tournament, I remember hearing him talking about this list, saying that he wanted to try the Witch King and Suladan. He hadn't played it before. It's the big meta thing, and he said, he's leaving it at home. It's not particularly fun to play with, is what he said. Just in that his opponents weren't necessarily having a great game.
I mean, but I think that's how are you playing it, right? I mean, it looks like his Witch King had 13 will. So obviously the plan was never to be in combat, which is like, sure, I guess that's if you just, I mean, you can see here is 2 raids are just sitting in the back, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's not, again, it's not an army that there are other armies I'd rather not play against. This is not one where I'm like, oh man, I really don't want to play this. It was more that it's just like, I'm playing nothing but orcs. Once I am broken, the game is over. And then he just well outrolled me on the one turn. Like, there was one turn I could have potentially turned it around. Like, if I had killed 9 models and only lost 3 from that turn, then it's like, holy crap, I have so much more to work with. I'm going to be able to push through these lines. But it was just like, unlike my game against James, where he had the high fight, it was just Caleb rolled the 6s or higher than me or equal to me in every fight and killed a model. Whereas, when James won a fight, he wouldn't kill the model or wasn't winning the fight. So, which is the nature of a Fight 3 army, right? I pay for cheap models.
Absolutely.
And I get bad fight, and sometimes the dice just aren't in your favor.
Yeah, that's what makes the Time of the Orc not broken, really, is because it's on a Fight 3 army. You're like, I called Time of the Orc, and I didn't win a single fight.
Could be pretty good with Blackguard of Barad-dûr, though it may be Orc and their Uruk-hai. I'm not actually sure how that would work. I'd have to look at those rules.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. Should we get into game 5, which is
let's do it.
Funny one because we played each other.
Yes, we did. Played each other in the final round. At this point, Sam, I have lost 2 games and won 2 games, I think.
I think that is.
And you're on the same?
I believe that is the case. We should say, so this was the plan for this tournament was that in rounds 1 through 4, they would move stuff around so you didn't have rematches. But in round 5, it was just going to be purely based on standing. So if you were on the top table and you'd already played the person, like, number 2, if you were number 1, you would play number 2 again, which I think is, I kind of think that's fine and that's how it should be. However, I ended up playing, I was supposed to play Chris again, who, if you haven't listened to the first episode, I talk about that game, but he was playing the Rise of the Necromancer Legendary Legion, and it just wasn't going to be a game. And I, like, at the end of, I can play a game early enough in the tournament and just be like, hey, let's just pull off my models, and I can be like upbeat and still have a reasonable time. But at the end of that, and after taking a kicking, a 0-12 defeat, I wasn't overly excited to have another one of those, and not really have a game. So I was debating just being like, you got this, man. I'm gonna pack up. But we were on the table next to you and your opponent. You were supposed to play Hunter, and Hunter was like, "Why don't we just like swap it and mix it up?" So that's why we ended up playing, which was great. And I really appreciated everyone being willing to do that. And we sort of said to Chris if he was okay with it, because it was essentially going to be a 12-0 to him if he played me again in this scenario. We let him pick who he wanted to play, and he decided he wanted to play Hunter. So Hunter was playing dwarves, and we ended up doing battle for divide and conquer.
We did indeed. And between the rounds, Sam, I just wanted to say I had taken a Wander and a Gander over after having lost some games, won some games. So I wandered over and took a gander at the prize table, the trophy table, and I noted that there was a cool trophy for the Killmonger Award, which at the beginning of the tournament you were to mark down one of your heroes and tally their kills over the course of the event, and the hero with the most kills would win this prize. And I decided that rather than trying to win this game, I was not going to throw the game away, but my goal over winning was to get as many kills as possible with Azog, because I was actually in reasonable good standing of snagging that award. So I decided that was going to be my mission this game.
Well, would you like me to give us a read through of Divide and Conquer? Or
let me read through this one.
Sounds good,
Sam. Since you have done all the reading thus far.
Yes, scenario 17.
Divide and Conquer. All right, we've got an interesting deployment here, as you have seen on the screen for some time. We've got a 12-inch bubble in each corner, and armies deploy in opposite table corners. First, they deploy a warband in one corner, and then they deploy in the opposite corner and alternate back and forth until the army is deployed. You also have 3 objectives on the table running down the center line of the board. The 2 on the flank are worth less than the 1 in the middle. You score 3 victory points if there are more friendly models than enemy models within 3 inches of the center objective. If there is at least 1 friendly model and no enemy models within 3 inches of this objective, you instead score 5 victory points. For each of the other objectives, you score 1 victory point if there are more friendly models than enemy models within 3 inches of it. If there is at least 1 friendly model and no enemy models within 3 inches of this objective, you instead score 2 victory points. You score 1 victory point for causing 1 or more wounds to the enemy leader, 2 if you kill them, and 1 victory point for breaking the opposing force.
Very good. Very good.
And I didn't take any pictures of the beginning of this game, and Sam didn't take any pictures of the end, and neither of us took any pictures of the middle. So we have Sam's pictures from the beginning and mine from the end. So fortunately, we've got it mostly covered.
All right. Well, I think we can probably go through this one relatively quickly, as this is getting on for a longer episode, and it's sort of just, it didn't matter because neither of us were possible placing, and we've faced each other many times.
Exactly. Yep.
So I mean, I started off. I think I had Gothmog. I basically put Gothmog, Gothmog and the Shaman on one side, and Guritz and Guroth on the other. And basically, my plan was to use the drum in a march from the other side to try and link up, and in the process potentially kill this smaller warband you had going on.
Yeah, because I obviously had Azog and 1 captain, and then 1 captain all by himself.
Yep, and looks like turns 1 and 2 go to you, and not much happens. We get some moving up.
Yeah, Sam's drumming away, drum.
Turn 3 goes to me, and I think I'm able just to get some of Gothmog's warband into the flank of your smaller captain's warband, and I think you maybe maybe you engage.
Yeah, we basically, my captain, I knew that he was doomed, he was screwed, and his job was to, I don't know, tie up Gothmog for as long as possible. I have it marked down that he called a heroic combat this turn.
Also have that marked down.
That captain. I think he was. I honestly don't even know what I was trying to do. But anyway, I killed 1 of Sam's orcs and lost 4 of my own this turn.
Yeah. And turn 4 goes to you. I call a heroic channel with my shaman because one of the things I wanted to try this tournament was the sweet heroic or the channeled version of Fury. I think I'll basically. You charge in with Azog and some other models. My sweet channeled, I get a 2 high on his 2 will I spent, so Fury doesn't go off, which was excellent. Azog uses his free combat, and Gothmog is able to...
Yeah, and you had charged a couple of orcs into Azog, so I think he was fighting 3 orcs, and he calls his heroic combat and kills them, and then gets to go fight another 2 and kills them. So Azog killed 5 orcs this turn.
Yeah.
And elsewhere in the fight, Sam kills another 5 of my orcs, and I lose 1.
Yep.
I also have it marked down that your shaman died this turn. Did Azog kill your shaman?
Charged into the back flank and went into him. So turn 5 looks like it goes to me. You call a move with one of your captains.
And Gothmog, Master of Battles, that move. And actually gets to move first, I have marked down here.
And then we get some combats. I call Time of the Orc. I think our sort of lines are mostly locked at this point because you're also so you've a smaller part of your army fighting Gothmog and his warband, and then a bunch of your army fighting my other 2 warbands. Azog calls a combat. Gothmog is able to master a battle that, and this was in fact the Time of the Orc because I have it marked down that I killed 10 models and you only killed 3.
That is correct. I should also note, Sam, that Azog called a free heroic combat, and Gothmog, of course, Master of Battle, the free heroic combat. And Azog failed to win his free heroic combat. Possibly he spent... Possibly he won the combat and then failed the second one, because I have that he spent 2 points of might to win a duel. So possibly he flubbed the first combat, burned might on it, and then flubbed the second one because he spent both of his points of fate this turn and lost a wound.
Yes. Yeah, needing
So
fives
Azog getting
re-rolling.
punched in the face by orcs.
Yeah, needing fives re-rolling against Azog is not terrible. Turn
No.
6, I goes to you. And this is a slightly better turn for you. I have it. I only kill 3 models, but lose 6. Azog has to spend a few more resources. 7, also to you.
I call surprise on turn 7.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically, what happens in this game is the objective is on this water fountain, and we decided that for all intents and purposes you could move onto it. We just left it there because it looked cool, which ultimately meant that neither of us just moved onto it. We both basically treated it as impassable ground, despite saying that we could move over it, just because it was more convenient. So we had this sort of like ring around the rosy happening with Gothmog. Gothmog had a fairly good game. He was like chewing through guys, and Azog, basically, I could have sent Azog to hunt down Gothmog, and we could have had this Gothmog and Azog fight off, which Azog probably would have won, and it might have made the game significantly different. But like I said, Azog's mission was to go get kills this game, and he did a pretty good job. He got 22 kills this game, 24 or something like that. It was over 20. It was pretty ridiculous.
yeah.
Maybe it was, I don't know, it was a lot. It was a lot of kills this
Yeah,
game.
I mean, and basically what ends up happening is I kill enough of your models that you're like very close to being shattered, I think.
I'm actually broken. Yeah, I'm broken on the turn that I called surprise, hilariously
Yeah,
enough.
but this ends on quartering, right?
Yeah.
No, this is break. So I must have.
But sort of basically what happens is I managed to break Sam, and he's basically mopped up my army in the middle. It's still fairly close numbers wise in the middle of the board, and I've got like one guy on one objective, and he's got 3 orcs over there, and then I've got one Felwag on the other objective, and Sam's also got like 3 orcs over there, and basically, your guys on the objectives run away, but you still claim the center
No,
one.
I spend quite a lot of time, quite a fair number of turns shielding, I think, which is why I
That's
thought
right.
it was 25%. So we may have played that wrong, because I didn't want the game to end because you still had one objective and I was holding the other objective and I needed a few more turns to get over
Right,
there.
yeah.
But then, on like one of the final turns, I was broken and my like 3 orcs that were holding a side objective ran off, and I think I maybe had the other objective, and ended up having more in the middle. So it ended up being a 5-3 victory, minor victory to me. But yeah, it was a very bloody game, and it was certainly sort of like, towards the second half of the game, you were getting consistently more kills than me, and I.
Yeah, Goroth had a really shit game, if I remember. He like had one good turn, and then for the rest of it, just like flubbed all of his rolls.
Yeah, but that's
Like you were sort of depending on him to break that one flank, and he just struggled to chop through my gun to beds.
Yeah. But yeah. So it was an interesting game, an enjoyable one that didn't really matter. Azog, as you said, just absolutely ran through my orcs, and I think, like I said, there was at least 2 turns worth of shielding that I went for to try and get more points, and I probably should have just, killed through and not been, and it would have ended up being at a higher score because I would have been broken the game potentially would have ended with me being unbroken, which is worth a few more points.
Yeah. But either way, it was a victory to you, a 5-3 victory.
Yeah, a minor victory. Yeah, so not a bad way to end the event, and a pretty good event overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should note too that I did in fact take home the Killmonger award with Azog with a total of 47 kills over the event.
Very nice.
Beating out the next person who had 42, I think, so beating them out by 5. And beating Gimli, who only got 43.
Very good. Yeah. So a good event. Definitely always enjoy a good birthday bash. And I don't have who came in first, second, or third placings. Do you have any of those, Ben?
The only one that I remember is that Stephen of Now to Wrath Gaming took home 2nd or 3rd place.
Was he not first?
Or maybe it was
It may have
first.
been. Well, alas, we didn't particularly write that down, and I will give it a few seconds to see if I can find it, but won't.
Yes, I shall let you hunt for it. I know Chris posted it on Facebook. Yeah. We were ill prepared for that. I should start putting it in the slideshow.
That would be pretty smart. Let's see. First place was Josh. Second place was Steven, and third place was Caleb.
Nice.
So yeah. Wait, maybe this was this year. He just has the wrong person as the Killmonger.
Yeah, he's got Hagen down as Killmonger, which is incorrect, and then it gets corrected to you as Killmonger, and then I think Chris finally chimes in. It was in fact me.
Yes, very good.
But that's okay. I have the trophy to prove it. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah. So great event. Good one. I had fun playing the Army of Gothmog, but ended up not doing overly well with it, and.
It's funny. I was thinking about it. Of your 5 games you played against Witch King / Necromancer, 3 of those 5 games, which I mean you did win one of them, but I think that's partly because your opponent is inexperienced. A little bit there. So it's like the one thing the Army of Gothmog just really hates to see wraiths across the table.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Raids and terror, not its, and especially something that can stop the shaman from getting his.
I guess the terror's not as bad if they don't have sap whale or something,
Still annoying, but yeah, for sure. But yeah, so good event. Unless there's anything else you would like to add, Ben, I think we're going to sign off on this very rambly end to this episode. I don't know. I think the next event, so this will be coming out middle of July. I think the next event that I will be at will be the Nova Open.
Yeah, I think so.
So we will be back with another battle reporting episode in the next 2 weeks, where we'll talk about Ben attending a sort of Nova prep tournament, and then after that there may be some different sort of episodes coming up. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening and viewing. Thank you for listening to Gondor Calls for Ale. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. We, at Gondor Calls for Ale, are officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice. These beautifully hand-swirled resin dice have no micro bubbles and are therefore perfectly balanced. With over 3,000 variants and unique designs, nearly every tabletop gaming system is represented. So check out the description of this episode for a link and a discount code. Go buy yourself some new dice and let the good times roll. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are not associated with Games Workshop, New Line Cinema, or the Tolkien Estate. We hope we have not misrepresented or offended anyone. These recordings are strictly recollections of games we've played and are not commentaries on the character or competence of our opponents. They are intended purely for entertainment, and we hope they will be taken as such. You can find us on Patreon, see the link in the description. Supporting Gondor Calls for Ale there helps us continue to produce these episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Gondor_calls_for_ale. Feel free to send us a message there. Or on Facebook as Gondor Calls for Ale, another great place to send us a message. Or you can send us an email at gondorcallsforale@gmail.com. As Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, once said, remember today, listener, today this episode was good.